At exactly 12:07 a.m., my father stood outside my front door with a folder in his hand. He didn't come to check on me. He didn't come because he missed me. He came to take my house. And the words he said next would destroy everything I thought I knew about my family. "Sign the house over to your brother," my father said coldly, "or you're no longer our daughter." I stared at him. Behind him stood my younger brother, Daniel. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes. "Dad, what are you talking about?" He pushed the folder toward me. "Just sign." I opened it. The first page was a property transfer agreement. My name was at the top. Daniel's name was underneath it. I looked up. "This is my house." My father didn't blink. "Your brother needs it more than you do." I almost laughed. I had spent 3 years paying for this house. Every mortgage payment. Every repair. Every bill. I had worked late nights and weekends just to afford it. Daniel hadn't paid a single dollar. Why does Daniel need my house? My father sighed. Because he's starting a family. And? You're alone. Those 2 words hit harder than they should have. Because suddenly, I understood. In my father's mind, my life was worth less because I wasn't married. I looked at Daniel. "You agree with this?" He finally raised his eyes. "Yes." My heart sank. "How long have you known?" He hesitated. "About 2 weeks. 2 weeks. My own brother had known my parents were planning to take my home. And he had said nothing. I started turning the pages. Then I noticed another document. A loan agreement. My father's name was on it. But so was mine. I frowned. "Dad, what's this?" His face changed. "Give me the folder." I pulled it closer. "Why is my house listed as security for your loan?" Silence. Daniel looked at the floor. My father stepped toward me. "You don't need to understand everything." "No," I whispered. "I think I understand exactly what you're doing." His voice became threatening. "Sign the papers." I looked directly into his eyes. "No." His face went pale with anger. Then he said something I never thought my own father would say. "If you refuse, you are no longer my daughter." The door slowly closed between us. But before I shut it completely, I looked at the folder one more time. There was something very wrong with those documents. And I had no idea yet. That my own family had already crossed a line they could never uncross. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with the documents spread out in front of me. Something wasn't right. The loan agreement claimed I had given permission for my father to use my property as collateral. But I had never signed anything. Never. The next morning, I took everything to a lawyer. She studied the papers silently. Then she looked at me. "Did you authorize this loan?" "No." "Did you sign this document?" "No." She looked at the signature again. "Then we have a serious problem." My heart started pounding. "What kind of problem?" "Someone appears to have used your identity without your permission." I felt sick. "Who?" "We need to find out." For the next few days, we investigated everything. Property records. Bank documents. Emails. Old paperwork. And then we found it. My father had been struggling financially for months. His business had accumulated enormous debts. Instead of telling the family, he had borrowed money. And he had used my house as security. But there was something even worse. Someone had helped him prepare the paperwork. Someone who knew my signature. Someone who had access to old family documents. My lawyer pointed at the name. Daniel. I couldn't breathe. "My brother?" She nodded. I stared at the document for several seconds. Suddenly, the midnight visit made sense. They weren't asking me to give Daniel the house because he needed a place to live. They were trying to make me transfer the property voluntarily before the financial problems caught up with them. If I signed those papers, they could make everything look legitimate. I drove home in silence. That evening, Daniel called. "Please talk to me." I answered. "Did you help Dad?" Silence. "Daniel?" Finally, he whispered. "I didn't think it would go this far." My hand started shaking. "So you knew? Dad promised everything would work out. You knew they were using my house." I was desperate. I closed my eyes. "You weren't desperate when I helped you pay your bills." He said nothing. "You weren't desperate when I helped with your wedding." Nothing. "You weren't desperate when I gave you money for your new car." His voice became quiet. "I know." "No, Daniel," I said. "You don't know." Then I hung up. For years, I had believed I was helping my family. Now I realized they had been training me to say yes. And they had made one terrible mistake. They thought I would keep being the same woman. They were about to discover I wasn't. I could have screamed. I could have exposed them to every relative. I could have destroyed Daniel's reputation. But I chose something much more powerful. I stayed calm. My lawyer officially challenged the documents. The bank was notified. The property records were protected. And then, I waited. My father started calling. I didn't answer. Then Daniel called. I ignored him too. 3 days later, my father came to my workplace. He looked angry. "You're making this much worse than it needs to be." I looked at him. "You tried to take my house. It was for your brother." "No. It was for your debt." He froze. "You don't understand." "I understand everything." I placed a copy of the documents on the table. "You used my property without my permission." His voice became softer. "We're family." I almost smiled. "Family doesn't do this." He looked away. Then he said the words I had heard my entire childhood. "After everything I've done for you." I interrupted him. "No, Dad." He looked surprised. "You don't get to use that sentence anymore." I had spent years trying to earn my father's approval. Years helping everyone. Years being the daughter who never complained. But suddenly, I understood something. They didn't love my kindness. They depended on it. And when I finally said no, they called me selfish. My father asked, "What do you want?" I looked at him. "I want my house." "You'll keep it." "And I want the truth." His face changed. "You're really going through with this?" "Yes." He shook his head. "You're destroying this family." I stood up. "No." I looked directly at him. "You destroyed the trust." "I'm just refusing to pretend it didn't happen." The bank investigation continued. Then the first major truth came out. The documents contained inconsistencies. The signature wasn't mine. The transfer couldn't be completed. And my father's financial situation was much worse than I had known. His business was collapsing. Daniel suddenly needed my help again. But this time I didn't reach for my wallet. I didn't apologize. I didn't rescue them. For the first time in my life, I let them face the consequences of their own choices. But I had no idea what was coming next. Because a week later, my father returned to my house. And this time, he came alone. My father stood outside my door in the afternoon. No folder. No threats. No Daniel. Just him. I opened the door but didn't invite him inside. He looked at the house behind me. Then he said, "I remember when you bought this place." I nodded. "You were so happy." I was. He took a deep breath. "I was proud of you." Those words almost broke me. Because there was a time when hearing them would have meant everything. But now they sounded different. My father looked down. I made mistakes. I answered quietly. You made choices. He nodded. I know. For the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. I don't expect you to forgive me. I didn't say anything. He continued. I thought you would always help us. I finally understood. That was the real problem. He didn't see my kindness as love. He saw it as something he could always use. I looked at him. You thought I would choose my family over myself. He nodded. I did. And that's exactly why you lost me. He looked heartbroken. But I didn't feel angry anymore. Because I had finally stopped fighting for people who weren't fighting for me. The legal case moved forward. The suspicious documents were rejected. My house remained mine. My father had to deal with his debts without using me as a solution. Daniel eventually apologized. He admitted he had helped prepare the documents because he believed my father would somehow fix everything. I accepted his apology. But forgiveness didn't mean trust. Trust had to be earned. Months passed. My life became peaceful again. I repainted the living room. I planted flowers outside. I bought new furniture. And every time I walked through that front door, I remembered the woman I had been that night. Scared. Heartbroken. Desperate for her father's approval. But I also remembered the woman who finally said, no. That single word changed my life. My father had given me an ultimatum. Give your house to your brother. Or lose your family. What he didn't understand was that I wasn't losing my family. I was losing the illusion that they had ever valued me the way I valued them. And strangely, that was the most freeing thing that ever happened to me. Because revenge isn't always about making someone suffer. Sometimes revenge is rebuilding your life so completely that the people who tried to break you realize they no longer have any power over you. My father tried to take my home. Instead, he taught me how to finally stand on my own. And that night, when I closed my door, I didn't feel like a daughter who had been abandoned. I felt like a woman who had finally chosen herself. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't hurting the people who betrayed you. It's becoming someone they can never control again.